Good evening. A good Erev Shabbos, Thursday night, and we'll begin. All right. So, I was thinking this week it would be valuable to take note of something right in the middle of the Parsha. But the reason why I thought it was valuable to think about learning something right in the middle of the Parsha is really because at the beginning of the Parsha and at the end of the Parsha, there are two extraordinarily significant events in history. The beginning of the Parsha begins with Sarah Imenu, a great ancestor Sarah passing away, and it ends with Avraham Avinu, a great forefather Abraham passing away. And due to those extreme occurrences and the fact that Rabbi David Feinstein Zichrono Livracha passed away this week, one of the greatest poskim of the United States, certainly North America, and perhaps of the world, I was thinking that it would be valuable to think about a life lesson that's in the Parsha. So let's look at the Pasuk in Perek Chav Daled, Pasuk Chav Zayin, chapter 24, verse 27. It's right in the middle of the story of Eliezer. Eliezer, the servant of Avraham Avinu, who Avraham Avinu has sent to go get a wife for his son Yitzchak. And the Parsha speaks at great length. It's certainly the longest spoken topic, longest discussed topic in this Parsha. It begins with Avraham Avinu discussing it with Eliezer, Eliezer's travels and his experience meeting Rivka, and Eliezer then speaking to Rivka's family, and then concluding with Eliezer bringing back. No, it's okay. We're not going to be medayik too much in the Pasuk. And Eliezer bringing back Rivka Imenu. That's really the thrust of the story, and it's really the majority of the Parsha, the vast majority. And right in the middle, there's a really valuable lesson. And it's chapter 24, verse 27. I'll read it in Hebrew, I'll read it in English, and then we'll go from there. It says, Vayomer Eliezer, after he meets Rivka, she fulfills the signs. Before he got to the well, he said, I'm at the well where the young ladies come out to draw the water. And he turns to the heavens and he says, God, could you please give me a sign that I found the right one for my master, for Yitzchak? And he says a specific sign he's hoping to see, and immediately, as before he can finish even thinking that idea, Rivka comes out, and exactly what he had hoped happens. And he bows down, and then he says, "Vayema Baruch Hashem Elokei Adoni Avraham, asher lo yazav chazdei v'amita me'im Adoni, anoichi baderech nachani Hashem beis achei Adoni." He says as follows. He said, "Blessed is Hashem, God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness and truth from my master." And here's the part I want to focus on. As for me, Hashem has guided me on the way to the house of my master's brothers. He describes something which all of us hope for in our lives, and we always have it, but we don't feel like we have it. And that is called, in Hebrew, it's called hashgacha pratis. We're always hoping for Hashem to sort of take the reins and show us what we need to do, guide us, give us what we need in a really exact way. And we always have it, but we don't always feel like we have it. And here, Eliezer, Eved Avraham, Eliezer, the servant of Avraham, stops and praises God and thanks him. He takes note of the reality that he's faced with, which is, as for me, Hashem has guided me on the way to the house of my master's brothers. I'll share with you two comments before we get to the main comment. First of all, the Rabbeinu Bachaya says that this pasuk may be alluding to one of the things that our sages teach us, and that is when Eliezer was traveling, it was really going to be an extremely long travel from where Avraham Avinu was in Hebron all the way to his family. And Hashem performed what's called Kvitzas Haderech. He shortened the path. It became much shorter, supernatural travel. It was before there was high-speed travel like we had today. They were on the camels, and Hashem made it go, the bullet train or whatever, the Concorde flight. It was super fast. So he may be hinting to that because Eliezer is saying, look, there was something specific about the way that God guided me. That's one thought in the pasuk, but again, highlighting the point of the specific guidance here. The Malbim also adds something here in terms of understanding these words. He says, "Anochi baderech," me on this road. He says, "Shaleis kavanti klal beis achi adon." He said, I didn't know where I was going. I just started on the road. I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to be headed, how to get to their house. Ubeoidi baderech bilti choshev klal lavoi el habayis hazeh. He says, when I was on the road and I wasn't thinking at all about getting to their house. Nachani Hashem l'sham b'hashkachasai. Hashem brought me there with His design, His control. Picked me up and put me there. And I think it's a really important lesson I want to talk about just in brief tonight as we focus in on how our lives work. We see Sarah Imenu's life. We see Avram Avinu's life. They were great leaders. We saw David Feinstein Zichrono V'Rocha pass away, a great leader. What are we doing in our lives is always a big question, but are we paying attention to what's happening already is the question I want to address tonight. Are we paying attention? I think the simple answer is mostly not. Mostly not. But we really need to, because when we do that, we'll see that there's an incredible relationship and experience we're having with HaKadosh Baruch Hu the whole way through. Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, the great mashgiach in the Mir Yeshiva, passed away in the early 30s, 1930s. He uncharacteristically wrote something very interesting on this pasuk. He has a Sefer Das Torah, which was written over by students of his, of certain discussions he had with his students, and very uncharacteristically, he says 2 vignettes of his own personal life about what in trying to explain what this pasuk is referring to. And he says the Pasha Pshat, the simple understanding of Anochi b'derech nachani Hashem, these words that we're trying to focus in on is Ki'ilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Eichzehu b'mo yadai v'naga b'chol haderech mehacha l'hasam Mimakam zeh l'makam sheni mitchias haderech hatzayfay le'novuch v'le'toeh ki'im b'derech hanachenu Hashem v'yash l'matarasa v'yilehu. He says what the simple pshat in the pasuk is telling you is it's as if God picked him up, He took him, held him by the hand, and walked him to where he needed to go. That's the simple understanding of the pasuk. Held him by the hand and walked him to where he needed to go. And he says as follows. He says, I'll just tell you the stories outside. I'm not going to read them inside because they're very powerful. He says there were two stories, and he's juxtaposing the 2 stories. The first is that at a certain point in his life, I can't pronounce the place that he lived in. I could say it to you if you're familiar with it. It's called Uzunt. Someplace he lived about 25 kilometers, he says, from the town of Kelm, where he learned. It was 25, his home was 25 kilometers away. And when he was not able to get home by Friday, he didn't go home for Shabbos. He felt that even though it was 25 kilometers away, he didn't want to risk traveling right before Shabbos. He was worried that something would happen and he would be stuck and he wouldn't be able to keep Shabbos properly. So he didn't do it. And he said one time in his life, he had an extremely pressing need to get home for Shabbos. And that week he wasn't able to get home before Friday. And he had to make a decision. And he decided the need was great. And he was going to leave on a Friday morning. And he said, I left extremely early in the morning. I was very careful. I wasn't lax. It was only 25 kilometers away. There was no reason for me to be delayed, no reason for me to be late. And he said, I barely made it to Shabbos as they were lighting the candles. I barely made it home. He said, every single thing that could have gone wrong, went wrong. The axle of the carriage broke, and then they fixed that. And then the wheel of the carriage broke, and then they fixed that. And then this happened, and that. He said, everything I could and couldn't have imagined happened. And he said, I understood the whole time. He said, I felt Hashem was not with me. Hashem was saying, no, wrong. This is not right. I'm not encouraging this. And he said, from then on, I accepted of myself never, ever to travel on a Friday, ever. That was one story he relates. Another story, he says, after World War I, he was stuck in Lita, and he was trying to get to Poland, and he was stuck in Lita, what was then Lita, and obviously due to the warring countries' inability to compromise and work things out, there was a, I don't know if you want to call it an embargo. It was impossible legally to travel from Lita to Vilna. I mean, from Lita to Poland, and he had to find some way to travel there. So he said, I was on the way. I had to go in a very roundabout way. I had to go through. Um, he says I had to go through Germany even. I had to go through Danzig. That's the name of the city. He said, when I got to the city Unsterberg, I don't know if he means Amsterdam or another city. He said, I got to Unsterberg. Said, I got there. A Jew approached me and he said, are you going to Danzig? I was shocked. How could it be that I didn't say anything? I didn't relate anything. I wasn't carrying a sign that said I'm headed to Danzig. He just walked in and said, are you going to Danzig? I said, yes, I'm going to Danzig. He took my belongings, put them on the side, carried them for me, organized them. In the morning, he and I traveled together because he was going to Danzig. We traveled together. And when we got there, he organized a place for me to stay. He took care of all of what I needed, and everything was successful. And he said, and on that trip, I felt the exact opposite. I knew that exactly where I was headed was Hashem was directing me and guiding me the entire way. And he said, I felt as though a child, just as a child is taken by the hand and led, that's how I felt. I felt Hashem took me by the hand and led me. That's what Eliezer, Eved Avram, was expressing in this pasuk. It's crucial on a consistent basis for us to take stock of the direction we're headed, where we're headed, and how we're headed there. In a time like this, and a parsha like this, where we have great people in our time passing away, and we're in a parsha where we're supposed to be reflecting on the great leaders of yesteryear, of our shurish, our foundations, our roots, how they lived and how they passed away. It means, in my opinion, it's a golden opportunity to reflect on our Hashem Nachani, on Hashem, on our Hashem's guidance, our path, looking at it from the true perspective, which is Hashem is taking our hands and leading us. And that's really the message that I want to share. I want to share also one personal story myself. And it brought it home for me in a way that I always, often forget. But when I remember the story, then I remember the importance of thinking about where we're headed and how we're headed there. I was once, I rented a car. I was pretty newly married in Jerusalem. And we rented a car, and I don't remember where we were going, and I don't remember why we were going there. It's a number of years ago. And we were on the way back. And for those of you who know, if you come into Yerushalayim from Kvish Echad, there's only one way to get in. You just go straight, and that's it. There's not really, once you're in Yerushalayim, you can kind of go a little farther and come around the back, or come around the front, wherever it is. But it's not very complicated. There's no difficulty. And for some reason, we had been delayed in starting the route back home. And I was looking at the clock. The clock was ticking, and I needed to get the car back to the dealer. And I was getting nervous because I saw the clock ticking. And part of the reason why we had rented a car was because I needed to head to a place called Ramat Shlomo, pick up a meat order, because it was before Yom Tiv, pick up an order of meat in the car so I wouldn't have to carry however much meat it was on the bus by hand. It was going to be very difficult. So I was renting the car. I wanted to carry the meat in the car and get it home and then return the car. That was my intent. As we were driving, I still to this day, I can't understand what exactly happened. There was extraordinary traffic, rare traffic. There is traffic in Jerusalem, but not traffic like this. It was bumper to bumper, miles out. And so I was trying to figure out, was there any other way? I didn't know of any other way. I didn't have a GPS. Is there any other way for me to get into Yerushalayim some other way? So I just figured, well, I'm right outside Yerushalayim. If this is the American, there must be some way. If I get off the road, I could probably drive through the mountain, or who knows where. I wasn't thinking about my safety necessarily, not my wife's either, unfortunately. And I'll just drive, right? So the first exit that I came to, I decided to get off. Well, lo and behold, it wasn't really, I didn't read the sign right. It wasn't really an exit. It was just somehow there's like a U-turn type of thing where you get on the highway going back the other way. So I pulled off the highway and boom, turning straight around, going back the other direction. It was ridiculous. Then I had to figure out how to get back on the highway again and start traffic all over again. Anytime I was wasted because I was turning, and I got right back. It's okay. And then I can't describe every single turn I made. Every single turn I made, though, without fail, was wrong. I went the wrong way every single turn. Every single turn took me more time. And at a certain point, it became so intense that my wife turned to me and she's like, Ezra, calm down. Because I'm trying to drive faster and faster. She's like, Hashem is in control. Like, we are not, something is happening right now. And I was newly married. I'm like, what do you mean? I can make it. We're going to go. We'll do it. You know, unfortunately, that's the younger perspective. And I'm trying to just push through what is clearly Hashgacha Pratis holding us back. And so we get to meet and we get to the house and we're running about 45 minutes late. And I thought I'd have to pay for a whole nother day with the car. And I was very nervous about that. And I still remember, I finally got, it was in the bottom of Shefa Mall, Rav Shefa Mall, if you know where that is, near Romema. And I got to one of the streets, like Afchana, Rehov Chana, and finally, like, it was like traffic parted, the seas had split, and I had to straight away, and I literally pedaled to the metal, hit the gas as hard as I could, trying to go as fast as I could. And as soon as I hit the gas all the way, this little boy jumps out in front of the car in the middle of the street, and I slammed full force on the brakes, and I'm like, okay, I stopped inches before him, Baruch Hashem, and my wife, she turns to me, she's like, Ezra, I'm saying this again, like Hashem, this is not gonna happen. We're not gonna make. So I tried driving a little bit slower until we got up there. I don't know how much slower I drove, but tried driving a little slower until we got there. Returned the car. Baruch Hashem, they decided to forgo the extra couple of minutes of hour plus past that I was late, and we didn't have to think. So that's one part of the story. Now, the most awesome part of the story is that 2 days later, unfortunately, I can't remember again what the need was. I had some extreme need, borrowed someone's car or something. I need to go somewhere. Every single place that I had gone off the road wrong was where I needed to know how to go. 2 days later. It was crazy. I was shaking while I was driving in the experience of Hashgacha. I was shaking. I couldn't believe it that every single place I had gone wrong, I needed to know in order to drive to this place I was going now. I was shaking while I was driving. And so I feel that it's critical. I'm going past the time here. I'm going to end with this, that we always are in the hands of Hashem. We're never outside of the hands of Hashem, ever. It never happens. We never leave the hands of Hashem. The question is, are we in tune or are we out of tune? Are we being real with the real reality or are we ignoring the real reality? That's the choice we have to make. Can we be, in this week's Parsha, it's Eliezer, it's not Avram Avinu or Isari Imenu, where it's expressed clearly. Where did he learn this technique from? Of course, from our forefathers. It's him, even Eliezer of Avram, who himself was a great person, was able to recognize, this is Hashem guiding me. I give a bracha that we shall always zeicha to see Hashem's guidance in our lives in every step, always, and to therefore feel that closeness and develop our relationship with him further and further, and to have that loving relationship and serve him to our best. Have a great Shabbos.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, all the best. Have a good Shabbos.